Hi guys, this is Evgeny, Editor-in-Chief at Data Center Knowledge. I have with me Christopher Street. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at ST Telemedia Global Data Centers. We're at Channel Partners. We're just here to catch up with Chris and ask him some questions. He's an expert on all things data center industry in Asia. It's a unique skill set, and we're very, very lucky that he agreed to give us a few minutes of his time here at the show. Chris, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the most interesting announcements last year was Facebook's 11-story data center project in Singapore, which is a tiny little data center market, tiny island, not a lot of real estate, very popular amongst data center operators. So tell us what's been the reaction to that project announcement in the Singapore data center industry.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise. It was Facebook's first purpose-built data center in Asia, and it's a huge site. It's over 1 million square feet, I think, of space. And the reaction in the market has been quite positive. It helps reinforce the idea that Singapore is a hub for Southeast Asia in terms of the connectivity and the access, and that end users can use Singapore to reach not only the nation itself, but also across all of ASEAN, which is one of the largest trading and economic blocs in the world. And so it's quite a positive validation of the overall market in Singapore. Some of the things that the government has done there in terms of incentivizing data center operators to invest more, telcos, submarine cables, really building that digital infrastructure for the nation. And so it's a very positive thing. Very exciting from a colo operator. Of course, you want to sell to folks like Facebook, but I think them being in the market helps validate the importance of Singapore across the global landscape.
Yeah, but I guess there probably was some disappointment, so to speak, because Facebook is a huge hyperscale customer potentially in Singapore. I mean, they have some presence in Singapore already.
Yeah.
That's 11 stories of data center space that's not available to the market anymore.
Yeah, and so that did take off a considerable amount of capacity within the data center park in the west of Singapore. And as an operator, I think we all would have loved a shot at having that, but it is a good thing overall for folks, and kudos to Facebook for getting it across the line.
Yeah. There was some news recently about easing of restrictions in China, about restrictions on foreign cloud service providers being required to operate together with local partners. There's been some talk of that easing of those restrictions, and as part of the trade negotiations that US and China are doing right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it will, depending on how it plays out, right? There's always the details and the nuances of the regulatory environment in China. But I think overall it will allow and help accelerate some of the deployments that we've seen with the Western operators into China. It's going to be unique on how they have to, maybe change their business model from where they've always had to partner with folks locally. If it opens up like they indicated, it could help facilitate their entry into the market at a scale that would be much larger than what they currently have. I mean, the overall Chinese market for cloud services is huge. It's increasing. Our company up in China, GDS, is services all the hyperscale cloud players in China, and so I think in general, and overall, it's a positive step for the country, or for the cloud operators, especially the Western ones, if they can, depending on how the nuances work out.
So hypothetically, if that does happen, and obviously the devil is going to be in the details, even if there are some restrictions that are lifted, there will be some nuances in how that's going to be handled. but ultimately that would be tougher competition for Alibaba, which currently dominates the cloud market in China. Can you just comment on that? How much of an impact you see that's having on Alibaba?
I think where the option today for, say, U.S.-based companies that are going there with a cloud operator, if there's a larger scale of operations of the Western cloud operators, I think their natural behavior would be to extend the relationship that they may have across other regions, as opposed to starting with a new vendor like, say, Alibaba, which is the natural choice today in China. And so I think there could be a bit of that. And so that would impact Alibaba's growth, but Alibaba's growth is primarily driven by the growth of the domestic Chinese market. And so in the near term, it's probably a blip, but long term, it could definitely be, because it'll be, anytime you open up to competition, it's gonna have an impact on kind of the velocity and the scale.
It's still probably better for customers.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, competition's always better for customers, I think. So, it gives them more choice, and it helps kind of the operaters and the service providers be more innovative, take in, bring more services to market, and help just kind of up their game in terms of delivering services. So I think it's always positive.
And you mentioned GDS, one of the biggest data center providers in China. They just recently went public, and you guys, STT, you're an investor in that company.
Yes.
You hold a major stake. It's been fascinating to watch the growth of that company and just the scale at which they're building. Can you share some of your thoughts on GDS's position in the market, and maybe give our viewers who may not necessarily be familiar with the company an overview of the scale of construction they've been doing?
Sure. So GDS is the largest carrier-neutral co-location provider in China, outside of the telcos. And they build world-class infrastructure, 53 sites across China, primarily developed in Tier 1 Tier 1 cities in China, so Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Chengdu, Guangzhou. And so the scale at which they've been growing, if you just read their public statements, they're listed on NASDAQ as of a couple of years ago. They've been putting up the amount of capacity that equals some of the largest global co-location providers like Equinix and Digital, but just putting that up in China in a year. And so that in itself is a testament to the strength of the Chinese market and the growth potential that's been happening there for the past 2 years.
And probably the importance of this potential easing of regulations.
Exactly. So that just helps reinforce and from our perspective through GDS, being a strategic investor and partner with them, is that opening up the doors to more competition is a good thing, because that helps us extend our relationships that we have with the other hyperscales to help them expand their business across China. So,
Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.